Thank you, Chris. And really to highlight, that website's really amazing. It's savetherain.us. Pretty easy to remember, savetherain.us. So our next speaker is a chemical engineer, actually a chemical engineer and a lawyer, but really a scientist by trade, and he comes to us from the Water Permits Division of the U.S. EPA. Kevin Weiss, he spends his day working on wet weather issues and long-term integrated planning. And I'm going to take a second and just do a commercial here for the EIT. The EIT and our joint program manager, the DEP, for the financing program, we're actually offering $500,000 in grants this year for anybody that is looking to create an integrated planning document. And an integrated planning document is really, it's a little bit bigger than a long-term control plan because it takes into account all of the requirements of the Clean Water Act. So we actually encourage that. So for anybody that's interested, either see me, see Dan Kennedy, Michelle Putnam, any of the staff at the DEP, we've got cash available to help you create these documents with the objective that that plan turns into some kind of environmental project down the road. All right, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kevin Weiss.
Thank you. Thank you, David. As David mentioned, I'm from EPA headquarters. You're probably more used to working with the regional office, but the New Jersey experience has been a very interesting one for headquarters. Actually, this is my 5th workshop, I think, in the last couple of years that I've had the opportunity to attend. And and other folks at headquarters are very impressed by the job that New Jersey is doing on this. Pilar and her team, Joe, have brought a lot of energy to this process and really turned things around here at the state, and we're very pleased with that. And in doing so, I think she's really done a service for the municipalities of New Jersey and being very pragmatic in what she's doing, bringing a lot of wisdom to what she's doing in the way that she's written the permit, and really setting you guys up for success. And I know that may not be the perspective, but I think that's really is the case here. And now the torch is being passed as the permit's being issued, and it's going to be your opportunity to really do something for your community. We're asking you to make a very large investment for your community. You're going to be seeing, you've already seen this morning, and you're going to be seeing more this afternoon, some of the benefits of this investment that you'll be making. And it's really going to be something that you want to look back on in a few years and really have some pride and show that, what you've done for your communities. I mean, these CSOs are discharges of raw sewage are not a good legacy to pass on to another generation. I mean, they just have to stop. And we have you're going to have a great opportunity to make an investment in your community to move beyond that, to stop those and to do some of these other things with green infrastructure. What I am going to talk about, and I'll try to do this very briefly, is scheduled development and how financial considerations factor into that. A couple of the key points that I want to make are that there is a tool which we call financial capability assessment, an assessment protocol that really becomes important for figuring out what your compliance schedule is going to be as we work through this process. But probably more importantly than that, I do want to point out that financial considerations are real important for coming up with a schedule, but they are not going to be used to lower the permit standards. They tell you how long you have, they don't tell you how far you go. So that's one important thing to keep in mind as we work through this. The other thing is that we recognize that this whole area of financial capability assessment is something that's evolving, and we've actually seen a lot of good work being done around the country in the last couple of years, and hopefully you'll be able to benefit from that. Again, let me try to blast through this presentation. From a regulatory perspective, our regs don't say a lot about compliance schedules. They say just do things as soon as possible. There's a lot of considerations that go into municipal schedules or to developing these schedules. Certainly the planning that goes on, and hopefully you guys are already started on that planning effort. I know the permits hasn't been issued, but you don't have to wait. You know what's coming. Hopefully that's you're already engaged there. But it's going to take time to build these things. We recognize that. It's going to take time if you're going to be using green infrastructure. We recognize that that takes time as well. But in addition to that, we recognize that there's going to be a large expenditure associated with this, and we understand that that creates financial burden. So financial capability becomes an important tool to take a look at to make sure that you have an adequate time to do the project so it doesn't create too heavy a burden on your community. Why are we considering financial capabilities? And the bottom line to the Clean Water Act is that the municipalities are really front and center in terms of protecting water quality in our country. And you guys have done an amazing job in terms of the treatment plants. Stormwater and CSOs, there's still work to be done there. We see in parts of the country really good work being done. But the key to protecting our water resources are municipalities and the investments that you guys make. And we need, EPA, the state, we recognize that, you have an important job to do, and we're here to help guide you with that. But we also recognize that it has to be done in an affordable way. And so when we get to this concept of a financial capability assessment, really what we're looking at is some way to get some information about your community so that we can have an informed discussion on the appropriate timing for moving forward to complying with the Clean Water Act requirements, including the CSO provisions. Okay, let me get through this quick. Sort of the starting point for all this was the Cso Policy, 1994. That's a while back when the nation really made a determination that we were going to begin investing in combined sewer overflows. New Jersey's somewhat behind, but we're again pleased with the progress that you're currently making. The Cso Policy recognized that they were going to take very large investments to address this problem, and the compliance schedules were a big part of this. Because soon after the policy was issued, the agency came out with some guidance in 1997 that provided a real simple starting point for doing financial capability assessments. Again, it's not a very sophisticated type of an approach in the 1997 guidance, something to be used as a starting point. And throughout that document, we recognized that even at that time that we encouraged municipalities to provide additional information to make that analysis more robust and more reflective of your specific community. I don't want to turn this into a primer, but just to hit on the very top parts of the guidance. It's a two-phase approach. There's two major things here going on, two major indicators. One's a residential indicator that looks at household costs. Another is something that looks at sort of the overall health of the community, financial health of the community. And there's a set of matrices that are looked at. Probably the most important factor going into the original baseline assessment is this residential indicator. And what it really is the cost of the Clean Water Act obligations, all your what it's going to cost you per year over the percentage of the local median household income. And we look at a percentage of the median household income that's going to be invested in the Clean Water Act. And our basic guidelines are that when you start getting around 2%, that's when we think that the burden on the municipality is going to be high, and that we want to take a look at scheduling and whatnot so that we can bring that number down. However, it's not just the residential indicator. There's other indicators as well that take a look at the health of the community. There's 6 of them that are identified in the 97 guidance, but others, it can be supplemented by others. We go through a process that's outlined in the thing where you quantify these indicators and basically average things out. And what ultimately happens is we take the residential indicator, and it gets influenced by the other financial indicators reflective of the community, so that if the community is facing other financial burdens as well, that factors into and the level of burden that's considered. In the last couple of years, we've had some discussions with the Conference of Mayors about how can we improve what we do with this assessment and make sure that we're really accounting for the unique factors that a community faces. And some of the issues that we've been talking with the mayors have been how to address low-income households, where they're really going to be hit by some of the requirements to a much greater degree than the median household. And the way the agency ultimately looks at that is that we really encourage municipalities, take a look at your rate structure and see if there's ways to make adjustments there so that you ease the burdens on these low-income households. Based on a couple of years of discussion with the Conference of Mayors, we recently came out with a new document which we call our Financial Capability Assessment Framework, and it provides some principles that we're going to be using as we move forward, and it also encourages additional information. The elements or principles that we have are that we still need the analysis of the 1997 guidance. The very simple thing is sort of the core that we're working from. That allows us to compare communities nationwide. However, the 2% median household income for the residential indicator, we don't want to give the impression that that's a rigid threshold. We are trying to broaden our analysis to make sure that all the costs that a community makes to protecting clean water are evaluated in the analysis in the proper way. And in particular, there's been a lot of discussion about drinking water costs, and when we believe that those should be factored in, not as part of the residential indicator, but as part of the impacts on the community. In our document, we also recommended some parameters that can be used for supplementing your financial capability analysis. And I only listed a few here. When you get to the point where you're working through these, these types of documents are the things you want to look at, as well as other materials that are going to be out there. Again, my apologies for racing through a lot of technical information, really rapid manner there. Hope I met my time frames, but again, thanks to New Jersey and good luck to all the communities out here, and hope you are really able to embrace the opportunity that's given to you for making these investments. Thank you very much.